بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And welcome to this 30th lesson from our series on Islamic fiqh. And today we're going to talk about practices that are prohibited during the consecration or during ihram. This is known in Arabic as mahdhuratul ihram, things you must not do while you are in the state of ihram. And these things are very important to learn so that you avoid them when you are performing Umrah or performing your Hajj. The first thing that is mentioned in our book: men may not wear anything that is tailored to take the shape of the body or any part of it, whether it is a robe or trousers or anything similar. Where did we get this ruling from? There was a hadith when the Prophet ﷺ was asked by one of the companions, "O Prophet of Allah, what should a muhrim," that is a person in the state of ihram, what should a muhrim wear? Now, this question is too generic, because I could say you can wear cotton, you can wear polyester, you can wear skin, you can wear this, you can wear that, you can wear this, you can wear that, and the list is endless. It's like when someone asks me, what is prohibited in Islam for people to eat? This is a good question. It's not generic. I could say you're not allowed to eat pork, you're not allowed to eat meat that was not slaughtered, you're not allowed to eat something that is harmful or poisonous, etc. But when someone asks me the opposite and says, what is permissible for people to eat? This cannot be listed down, because there's so many things that are permissible for us to eat. So the logical is to mention the lesser, not to list a whole array of things that cannot be limited. So when the man said, "O Prophet of Allah, what should a muhrim wear?" the Prophet said, ﷺ, answered him in a more intelligent response. He said, a muhrim must not. So the Prophet limited the things that you're not allowed to wear while in the state of ihram, which means that anything else is okay. So the Prophet said, ﷺ, the muhrim does not wear the turban, does not wear a shirt, does not wear trousers, does not wear the burnus, which is like a hoodie, and does not wear shoes. Full stop. So the scholars looked into these things and started to come up with justifications. And one of the justifications is, as I have just read to you: men may not wear anything that is tailored to take the shape of the body. And jurors and scholars came up with the word makhit, which means something that was sewed with a thread. And they said a muhrim must not wear makhit. They meant that he must not wear anything that was tailored to fit his body parts. Like a shirt, it has sleeves. Trousers, it has legs to put your legs in. Underwear, the same thing. A t-shirt is the same thing. A turban goes round your head. Throughout time, people neglected the hadith and only took what the jurors said literally. So they said anything that one saws with a thread or with a string, then this becomes haram for a muhrim to wear. And they cascaded this. So it said, okay, if you have a watch and the watch band has stitching in it, it's haram. If you have a belt with stitching in it, it's haram. If your ihram garments got torn out and you saw it, then it's haram. The sandals or the slippers you're wearing, if it has stitches in it, it's haram. And all of this is baseless. Nowhere did the Prophet ﷺ mention anything like this. He simply mentioned 5 categories that you must not wear. Full stop. Do not cascade it. Do not use terminologies that were not used in the Sunnah, because this is ambiguous and it would mislead people. Like in the case of Tahiyatul Masjid. Never ever did the Prophet ﷺ mention the word Tahiyatul Masjid, the greeting of the masjid. But when the jurors came up with this phrase or description, ignorant people later on held on to it and said that there is a specific, separate prayer that must be prayed, known as Tahiyatul Masjid. And this is wrong. Any 2 rak'ahs you pray, even if it is fard or more than 2 rak'ahs, this suffices for what is known as Tahiyatul Masjid, because you prayed before sitting down, and this is what counts. So going back to our issue, what not to wear is mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Stick to it. So anything that is a shirt, a t-shirt, a jacket, it has sleeves that you put your hands through, it's haram. Trousers, shorts, underwear, the same ruling. Turbans, hats, baseball hats, a kufi, anything you put and wear on your head is also not permissible. Hoodies, jackets, robes, the same ruling. Shoes. So tennis shoes, jogging shoes, normal shoes, not permissible because it covers your heel and ankles. But if you open the heel area and the ankles and your finger toes can be seen, whether you wear a sandal, whether you wear flip-flops, whether you wear slippers, all of these are permissible. During this number 1 prohibited practice, it says that women, at the end, the last 2 lines, women may wear whatever they wish, and this is true, as long as she's concealing her awrah, wearing proper hijab. It doesn't matter what she wears underneath. So underneath the abaya or the outer garment, if she wears a skirt, if she wears trousers, if she wears a shirt, if she wears a t-shirt, a blouse, all is okay. Then it goes to say, except veils and gloves, they have to leave their faces and hands uncovered. And this again is a misconception. This is wrong. You have to cross this out from the book. What did the Prophet say, alayhi salatu wasalam? The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, a woman must not wear the niqab and the hand gloves when she's in the state of ihram. So the Prophet specifically alayhi salatu wasalam said she must not wear the niqab, and the niqab is not any veil. So don't exaggerate and add to the hadith what the Prophet did not say or intend. The veil is a face cover that women wear that has an opening for the eyes, and this opening is sort of a hole in the veil, and this is where a niqab comes from. It comes from the word naqb. Naqb means a hole. Naqaba is the verb, to dig a hole. And the Prophet has prohibited a face veil that exposes the woman's eyes, where she can see through. This is what's prohibited. And he prohibited the wearing of the gloves. And we all know the gloves, which is something people wear on their hands which has separate places for their fingers, and it covers the whole hand. Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Al-Qayyim, may Allah have mercy on their souls, as well as Sheikh bin Baz, Ibn Uthaymeen, and all the great scholars of contemporary times, say that there is not a single text that allows a woman to unveil her face during Hajj. Because these jurors, when they came to the Prophet's ﷺ hadith that a woman in the state of ihram must not wear the niqab, they thought that, okay, this means that she has to unveil, uncover her face. But nowhere did the Prophet say that ﷺ. Otherwise he would have said a woman in the state of ihram must uncover her face. He didn't say that. He said she must not wear the niqab. If I tell you do not wear a t-shirt, would that mean that you have to come topless to an official meeting? I'm a boss and I say to my subordinates, so a smartass comes and he doesn't wear a t-shirt at all, comes topless. And I said to him, what are you doing? He said, you said don't wear a t-shirt. I meant do not wear that specific type of clothing. It's an official meeting. You must come with a shirt and a tie and a jacket. You have to wear a suit. So when the Prophet says, do not wear a muhrimah, does not wear the niqab, he didn't say that she should or must uncover her face. Likewise, he didn't say that she has to have her hands visible to everybody. She could cover them like this, with her clothes, with her garment. So this is another misconception which led many women taking their hijab totally off. Men who had never seen her face have now the privilege to look and enjoy what they see, which is totally prohibited in malls and markets, let alone in the most sacred place on earth, which is Al-Haram. You get women, beautiful women, unveiling and showing their faces in the Haram, and this is totally wrong. So you have to pay attention to put a note on your books in regards to this note. Number 2, it is prohibited for a person in the state of ihram to wear perfumes. And where did we get this from? We got this from the hadith when one of the pilgrims, or one of the people of the companions who was in the state of ihram, was thrown off his ride to the ground, hitting his head and dying. So he was in the state of ihram. The Prophet ﷺ ordered the companions to wash him, to shroud him, but to avoid putting perfume. As you know, when we wash a Muslim deceased for burial, we perfume his body. We wash his body thoroughly and perfume it as well. The Prophet said, do not apply perfume, because he will be resurrected on the day of judgment in the state of ihram, which means that perfume is not permissible for people in the state of ihram. Number 3, removing the hair and clipping the nails. As for the removal of the hair, this is mentioned in the Qur'an in Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah says, وَلَا تَحْلِقُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ حَتَّى يَبْلُغَ الْهَدْيُ مَحِلَّهُ. Once you are in the state of ihram, you cannot shave your heads until the sacrifice is done, meaning that you reach the end of the state of ihram in Hajj. So if you have sacrifice, you sacrifice in Mina, and if you don't, like in the state of Ifrad, then you simply go ahead and shave. And the exception is if a person is sick, then there's an expiation he has to pay, as per the hadith of Ka'b ibn Ujrah, may Allah be pleased with him. Now, clipping the nails was never mentioned in the Qur'an or in the Sunnah. Yet jurors said that through analogy, it takes the same ruling as shaving the hair or cutting the hair. And likewise, the hair of the rest of the body, not only of the head. So even your armpit hair, your pubic hair, any other type of hair, removing it while in the state of ihram is not permissible. This is an act of luxury. Scholars use the word taraffuh. It's an act of luxury, that this is not the time for it. And they measured clipping the nails to be similar to it, but as Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen says, that this is not a clear-cut evidence, yet it is best to be safe and say what the jurors said, just to avoid any controversy. Number 4, a man may not use a head cover. So we mentioned this in the beginning, wearing of turbans. But not only turbans that it goes round and round and round. This, what I'm wearing, is also prohibited. What I'm wearing underneath the head cap is also prohibited. A baseball cap is prohibited. Anything that is worn on your head is not permissible. However, you can sit under the shade of a tree. You can carry an umbrella. You can shade yourself with a big curtain on top of your head, not on it. There's no problem in shading. Unlike what the Rafidah, some of the Rafidah do. The Rafidah are the extreme Shia. On Hajj, they have buses with no roofs on top of that. And this is too extreme. The Prophet himself, ﷺ, had the companions shade him and hold something to protect him from the sun, and build a tent for him in Arafat, etc. So what they're doing is definitely not according to the Sunnah. Again, in this number 4, it says in the end, women may not cover their faces with something like a veil, whether showing their eyes or not. This is totally wrong. Please cross it out. It shouldn't be in our book. Okay. Now, it also mentions in this point that the things that are prohibited in Islam for a muhrim to make, you don't immediately jump the gun and say to someone who did it that you have to do expiation. So one comes to you and says, Sheikh, I wore perfume while I was in the state of ihram. You don't immediately say you have to feed 6 poor people, or fast 3 days, or slaughter a sheep in Mecca and distribute it to the poor at Haram. You have to inquire, ask, why did you wear perfume? One says, why should I ask? He's the one who committed this sinful act. Yes, but these 9 categories, or more or less, depending on how what's the number of these, if committed due to ignorance or forgetfulness or compulsion, there's no expiation. So one comes to me, I'm in the state of ihram, and he says, wow, this is beautiful perfume, would you like to smell it? And I said, okay. And she, psh, psh. Wow, that's nice. Thank you. Afterwards, someone comes to me, Sheikh, you're in the state of ihram, why did you apply perfume? I said, I don't know. Why wouldn't I? It has a good smell. Yeah, but it is one of the things prohibited for a muhrim to do. Really? I didn't know that. And he calls the sheikh, and the sheikh says to him, yes, it is haram. In this case, because he did not know the ruling, there is no expiation on him. Also, if he says, oh my Allah, subhanallah, I know it's haram, but I totally forgot that I was in the state of ihram. In this case, forgetfulness, you're exempted. Or someone comes to you with a gun and he's serious. He said, listen, either you apply this perfume, either you shave your head now. He's forcing, and he has a gun at me, threatening me, and the threat is genuine and real. Either you do this or I'm going to hurt you. In this case, Islam tells you no problem, go ahead with it, and there's no expiation because you were compelled, you were forced, you were under threat. So it is important to know these things. It's mentioned in number 4 that as when the person concerned learns of the prohibition or remembers, or the compulsion is ended. This is when you have to stop, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Number 5, proposing or marrying for oneself or someone else. You on this sacred journey are going to Allah Azza wa Jalla, seeking His forgiveness, asking Him to accept your sincerity. When you propose, so you see an uncle and he's very kind and he's telling you about his daughter and how educated she is and how beautiful she is, and you need to get married. So you propose and say, okay, uncle, would you accept me to marry your daughter? Here you get a red flag. You have committed one of the prohibited acts of Hajj, of ihram. And also, if you go a further mile, when he accepts and then you say to him, okay, let's get the marriage contract conducted, I have 2 witnesses, you give me the proposal, I give you the acceptance, and that's it. Now this is also haram, and the marriage is invalid, by the way, because you have performed something that is prohibited to be performed while in the state of ihram. Number 6, sexual intercourse with the missus, with the wife. And this has 2 rulings. One, if you do it before what is known as the first tahallul, because there are 2 tahallul in Hajj. One is done on the day of Eid, when you do the stoning of the grand Aqaba, the big Aqaba, and you shave your heads. Now everything is halal for you with the exception of intercourse. When does intercourse become permissible? Is when you perform tawaf al-ifada and sa'i al-hajj. With this, you've concluded everything from the pillars of hajj, and you can go ahead with being intimate with your wife. So if you do that before the first tahallul, your whole hajj is invalid. Even if you stood at Arafat and you went to Muzdalifah, but you did not perform the first tahallul and you had sex with your wife, that's it, it's gone. You're sinful, your hajj is invalid, you're obliged to continue it, and you must slaughter a cow or a camel and give it to the poor in Mecca, and you're obliged to perform it next year to expiate for the one that you have nullified. But if you did it after the first tahallul, before tawaf and sa'i of hajj, then you are sinful and you have to slaughter a sheep. And some scholars say you have to perform tawaf and sa'i al-hajj in your ihram, because you have done such a sin, and Allah knows best. Number 7, it's not only intercourse that is prohibited, also sexual foreplay that includes kissing and hugging, etc. So foreplay is also prohibited during the state of ihram, but it does not invalidate your hajj. It's a sinful act and requires expiation. Number 8, hunting and killing the game. So you, in the state of ihram, coming from India, coming from Egypt, coming from America, throughout your trip, as long as you had worn your ihram garment and entered the state of ihram from the miqat till you end your ihram, you're not allowed to hunt. You're not allowed to kill the game. So you can't kill a rabbit if you see one, or an ostrich, or a deer, or any animal. Of course, you can kill what is harmful and attacking you. You can kill what Islam ordered you to kill, such as ravens, rats, scorpions, kites, snakes, vicious dogs, etc. And it is also prohibited for someone to assist you. So I'm in the state of ihram, I have a shotgun, and someone tells me, listen, over there are a couple of birds. They're about to fly, shoot them, and then you can cook them and have a good meal. So he directed me to that, whether he is in the state of ihram or not, whether I am in the state of ihram or not. If he's muhrim, he cannot tell me, listen, there's a deer behind that tree. Though I'm not muhrim and I can kill it, but he's not entitled, he's not allowed to direct me or to help me or to assist me in doing so. So the state of ihram is a very important state to be respected and to be dealt with carefully. Number 9, no one, whether in consecration or not, may cut the trees of the haram area. So as a muhrim, I'm coming from America, I pass by the miqat, which to me is Rabigh, because I'm coming from the north and from the west. So after passing Rabigh, I land in Jeddah and I see a tree and I cut it down. Is this permissible? I says yes, no problem. If I'm not in the state of ihram, there's no problem either. Once we enter the borders of Haram area, which begins, if you're driving from Jeddah, from Ash-Shumaisi, the checking point. This is the beginning of Haram. From there onwards, I cannot cut trees or grass or plants, except for those that Islam permits and allows us to do, whether you are in the state of ihram or not. If it's green plants that are not harmful, it is not permissible. Branches that stretch into people's way and cause inconvenience may be cut because it's harmful. And there is a shrub called al-idkhir, and the people themselves grow it to be used in housing and to be used in their graves. This is permissible as per the request of Al-Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet agreed to that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Compensations. What to do if we make one of these 9 things of ihram, prohibited in ihram? Well, the vast majority of them, if you do them remembering, knowing, and not forced or compelled, then you have to give the expiation. And it says here, without ejaculation comparison with me, 3 things. It says you have to do one of 3 things. Either you fast 3 days, or you feed 6 people, and these 6 people must be poor, living around the area of Al-Haram, and you feed them half a sa', which is approximately a 1 kilogram and 100 grams, give or take, 150 or 125 grams of whatever, rice or flour or anything similar to that. Or the third thing is that you sacrifice a sheep or a ram and distribute the meat. Most people would choose the second one, feeding 6 people a kilo or 1.125 kilograms of rice. This is cheapest, easiest, most convenient, and much less people would choose to feed a ram, which is way more expensive. And in the middle, those who don't afford or can't afford it would probably go for fasting 3 days. It's easier and convenient as well. For hunting or killing a game, the expiation is different. You have to either sacrifice a similar animal. What do you mean, Sheikh? Well, scholars have this comparison according to the companions, where they said that an ostrich, which is a big bird, if you kill it deliberately, then in compensation you have to slaughter a camel. If you kill a rabbit, then you have to slaughter a sheep or a goat. So they say that if it has a similar animal to it, then you have to slaughter that. If it doesn't, then you have to estimate the price of the animal by 2 men coming and judging the issue and say, okay, the animal you have killed, it's not a sheep and it cannot be a camel. It should be estimated as so and so dollars or euros that you have to give in compensation. And the end of this paragraph, they've translated the ayah in chapter 5 Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayah number 95. So this is what the expiation for killing a game. If the game has an animal sacrifice similar to it, then you're giving three choices. Either you slaughter a sheep, which is equivalent to a deer maybe, or a rabbit, or the other choice is that you estimate the value of the sacrifice and you give it to the poor by buying each poor one sa', that is half a sa' for each poor. So if the amount is $100, let's see how much sa' can $100 buy, and we give half a sa' to as many poor people as there is. Or the third option is that you fast a day in exchange for every poor people you are supposed to give half a sa' to, which means that a lot of days. This is what you're supposed to do when you kill an animal, when you hunt an animal that has an equivalent to it according to the companions. But if it has no equivalent to it, the companions did not report to us that this is equal to this. In this case, to have to come up with a judgment estimating the value that you have to give in sadaqah, and you have two options: either to buy half a sa' with the money that you were told to give and give it to the poor according to the number, or to fast one day on behalf of every poor you were supposed to feed, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. As for sexual intercourse during the pilgrimage before the first release from the ihram, this renders that the pilgrimage is invalid, as I stated. And as I stated, this is before the first tahallul. Further compensation is required, including repentance, sacrificing a camel, making up for the missed or for the pilgrimage on the following year. And this is done after the first release. If this was done after the first, before the first release of the consecration. But if it was done afterwards, then again you have to give a sacrifice and distribute the meat to the poor round the Kaaba, round the Haram area. The only thing that has no expiation from these 7 things, as mentioned, as the jurors say, is when you make a proposal for marriage in the state of ihram, or you get married, and when you cut green grass or plants. There isn't any expiation mentioned for that, though it is sinful and though it is one of the things prohibited in ihram, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. We go to your questions, and we have a lot of them. I don't think the time would allow us, but maybe we'll see. Zinat says, I have a question. 3 Friday prayers, if missed by a man, he is no more a Muslim. Is this true? The answer is no. The hadith says that whoever misses 3 consecutive Fridays, Allah will seal his heart. Seal his heart. It has nothing to do with Islam and Kufr. And sealing the heart, as scholars say, refers to being unable to be reminded or to understand the Qur'an and the Sunnah, being neglectful. But you are still a Muslim, and if you repent, Allah will forgive you. Now, why would Zinat ask such a question? Because under the curfew and the lockdown, most of the Muslims are forced to skip 3 or more Fridays due to the ban over praying in the masjid. For example, I personally did not pray the past 2 Fridays, as well as everyone in Saudi Arabia. And next Friday is our 3rd. And unfortunately, we are still going not to pray it due to the COVID-19 crisis. May Allah Azza wa Jal uplift it from all over the world and save us all from it. So are we included in those whose their hearts are sealed? The answer is no. The hadith refers to those who do this intentionally without any excuse, like those who choose to go fishing every Friday and miss Fridays consecutively. Nabila says, zakat money got stolen. Should I give it again, or it is considered given? No, it's not considered given. This is Allah's rights. This is Allah's right in the wealth. You have to take it again and give it to the poor. Rudy Bani says, can we perform tayammum to a dead person instead of ghusl? The answer is no. This is not permissible unless there is a legitimate reason behind that. For example, someone who is badly burnt to death. So if I wash his flesh, he's going to lose a lot of his flesh and skin, and it's going to deteriorate and fall down. Islam tells you, no, this is not recommended to wash him. Offer him tayammum if possible. And if this is not possible, then bury him as he is. Mutoto says, at this tense of Corona, we hear qunut in every prayer from masjids. My question is, who don't go to the masjid? We pray home. Do we have to read the qunut in every prayer? And on which rak'ah do we bring qunut? Qunut is a dua. Usually people relate to it in witr, especially in Taraweeh, in the last rak'ah, when the Imam says, Sami Allahu liman hamidah, and then he goes, Allahumma hdina fi man hadayt, wa afina fi man afayt, wa tawallana fi man tawallayt, wa barik lana fi ma a'tayt, wa asrif anna sharra ma qadayt, to the end of the dua. And people say Ameen. However, in times of tribulations and calamities, the jurors say that it is permissible to ask Allah Azza wa Jal in the last rak'ah of all 5 prayers, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha and Fajr. After rising from the ruku', he says, O Allah, save our country from such calamities. O Allah, take away your wrath and anger from us. O Allah, cure those who are ill and protect those who are healthy, etc. Is this permissible? The answer is yes. There's no problem in doing it in congregation or doing it on your own, insha'Allah. Yasin says, can I give zakat money to my sibling who is who is needy, and will it be accepted by Allah as zakat? If you would not inherit your siblings, you can give them from the zakat if they are needy or poor. So let's analyze the conditions. I have a brother. If my brother dies, will I inherit him? Well, this depends. If my father is alive, I will not inherit anything from my brother. So I can give him from zakat if he's poor or needy. If my father is dead, but my brother is married and has a son, Once he dies, his son, along with his wife and his sister, that is the daughter of my brother, and his son and his wife of the deceased, would inherit, and I would take 0. In this case, if he's poor or needy, I can give him from zakat. But if my father is no longer living and he has no children, when he dies, I will inherit him if he had any money. In this case, it is a duty upon me to provide for him because he's needy, and I would inherit him if he dies. So I cannot give him from my zakat. Is zakatul mal applicable to buildings? Well, you should tell me, Yasin, because we spoke about this in details and said that there are 4 known categories, and according to the book there are 5, but 4 is what is known, that are zakatable. Having buildings is none of them, unless you are a real estate agent selling and buying buildings. But if you're not, and you just have 1 or 2 buildings, you're renting them and you're getting money off them, there is no zakat on it. There is zakat on the cash if it remains with you for a whole lunar year. Yasin again says, what's the ruling on combining Dhuhr and Asr prayers because of my nature of my work? I work during night and sleep during day. I often find myself waking up in the evening and combining 2 prayers. This is not permissible unless you are forced, meaning that you come back from work at 8 o'clock, you go to sleep at 11, totally wasted, tired. You set your alarm at 3 o'clock so that you can pray Dhuhr, and you set another alarm and you instruct your family to wake you up, and they try to do that without any veil. And you find yourself waking up at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock just before Maghrib. In this case, yes, you can combine Dhuhr and Asr because it is out of your control. But to go to sleep, determined not to wake and not to set the alarm clock except at 5 or 6, this is prohibited in haram. Zahra says, I'm a working woman and I am the one who's feeding my husband and kids. If I haven't saved any money, still, am I obliged to give zakat? Of course not. If you don't have any savings, whether you or your husband, there's no zakat. Someone who can barely make ends meet, so he receives $1,000 a month, and at the end of the month he has $1 or $2 or nothing, or not the threshold at least. Is he obliged to pay zakat? The answer is no, until he saves the threshold or more for a lunar year exactly. Ziblim says, can one make dua in a cemetery by raising hands? If you're talking about making dua for yourself, the answer is no, this is not permissible. But if you're making dua for a deceased, so I go and visit my father's grave, and while standing there I raise my hands and I say, oh Allah, forgive my father, expand his grave, fill it up with light, open windows from paradise for my father, there's no problem in that, none whatsoever. Yasin says, what is the ruling on having a wife who gets riba money to help with her parents and siblings? Your marriage has nothing to do with this. Your wife consuming riba money, interest money, whether to help her parents or to do anything with it, is a major sin and is totally prohibited. You have to advise her and stop her from doing that. Jami says, Can you fast voluntary if you have a cold or if you have throat pain? The answer is yes. This is up to you. If you recall, when we explained the chapter dealing with fasting, we said the illness is one of three: easy or moderate, which fasting would not burden you, it would not harm you, it would not delay your recovery. In this case, fasting is better than breaking it. Secondly, above moderate, which is an illness that if I fast, it's going to be hard, but it's not going to harm me nor delay my recovery. It's going to be a little bit painful. There's hardship in it. I'm going to suffer. In this case, it's recommended that you break your fast. Thirdly, severe case of illness, which means that if I fast, I'm going to harm myself. I may die. I may delay the process of recovery. The hardship is unbearable. In this case, it is prohibited for you to fast. Kun says, let us know if this is authentic. And he's asking, is it according to Qur'an and Sunnah? But he does not mention any hadith or any topic. So I don't know what to say. Sahra says, can one perform 6 rak'ah sunnah prayer of dhuhr after dhuhr prayer? Well, if you're referring to the 2 rak'ahs after dhuhr, there's no difference of opinion. Yes, you can. But you're referring to the 4 rak'ahs before dhuhr prayer, prior to it. Can we do it afterwards if you have a legitimate reason for skipping it? Yes. If you came late and could not offer it on time, you can make it up afterwards. If you forgot, you can make it up afterwards. But if you deliberately don't want to pray it except afterwards, no, this is not legitimate. Sana says, what about lactating mother and pregnant women's fast? We also spoke about that. And we said that if there is hardship or difficulty or their fear for their child, they can skip fasting and make it up later on when no obstacles exist. Afia says, is this happening when the person is in deathbed? Can she see their brother? No. This is a misconception that when a dying person is on his deathbed, just before dying, he says, I see my deceased parents, or my father, or my uncle, or my brother, or a wife or a husband. All of these are hallucinations from a person on his dying bed, or it's the jinn pretending to be that so that they would distract him from saying La ilaha illallah or from having a good ending. But the dead do not appear as they are gone. Again, Afia has another question. Says, if we see someone who passed away crying in our dreams, what does that mean? I have no idea. I don't have knowledge in dream interpretation. If you wake up saddened by what you had seen, this is surely and definitely a dream from shaitan. Seek refuge in Allah from shaitan. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, a'udhu minash shaitanir rajim, a'udhu minash shaitanir rajim. As soon as you wake up, and spit dryly 3 times to your left, and never tell anybody about it, and it's not gonna affect you or hurt you. Fida says, what should do for Jum'ah as we can't go anymore? Well, you should pray 4 rak'ah of dhuhr in your homes. If you have a family, combine them and pray in congregation. This is not mandatory for females, but it is mandatory for males. Afia says, if I see some random person, a female, WhatsApp status that contains bid'ah, is it obligatory on me to inform them that this is a bid'ah? If you can, yes. If you are a woman and she is a woman and you saw an inappropriate profile picture or a status that says something about bid'ah or shirk, put in a kind and diplomatic advice and anticipate the reward from Allah Azza wa Jal. Rayyan says, if someone is hospitalized and is unable to stand, thus cannot do wudu, 1. Can she do tayammum by hitting the bed? What if it's not dusty? No, she cannot hit the bed if there's no dust on it. So usually in Muslim countries, they bring a container with some sand in it and you can do wudu. So the family should do this. 2. Will the ablution be valid if he has a catheter? Yeah, there's no problem, because you cannot take this off. This is a device that is inserted in your body to release it from urine. You cannot take it off. So performing wudu would be valid, prayer would be valid as well. Does a lady have to be fully covered when doing salah? In this case, is it allowed for her to show her hair? No, the answer is no. She must cover herself properly and only unveil her face and hands. But if she says, I cannot, if there's something preventing her from doing this, she should do as much as possible and cover as much as possible. May Allah cure all our sick. Isra says, Islamic lectures speak on reward and role as a wife and as a mother, but I can't find anything on a woman who chose to be single or who is an orphan. They don't have husband to please nor kids to care. They are on their own. They are on their own. Do they have any role, or Islam defines and honors women only by those roles? No, of course they have roles. A single girl is like a single man. So he goes to the masjid, he gives charity, he works, he takes care of his parents. She can do the same. If she has parents, she has to obey them, be dutiful to them, take care of them. If not, then she has to look at her surroundings, those she's living with, her kinship, her friends, be kind to them, be kind to the children, the community, help them, teach them. The sky is the limit. But of course, the norm is Islam highlights the importance of the role of a wife and a mother, because this is the norm. Being single is not the norm, but if one was forced to be single, then they still can be productive. And finally, Imad says, is this permissible to give adhan and ask forgiveness, mercy from all? I'm asking this because I heard adhans from multiple mosques in Kashmir at 11:30 p.m. No, this is an innovation. And I made a clip a couple of days ago in my program, Ask Zad, on it. I'll inshallah try to upload it on Facebook, Twitter, and probably my personal Instagram account. So watch it and it will give you inshallah a deeper look into this bid'ah. هذا والله أعلم ونسبة العلم إليه أسلم. And with this we come to the conclusion of our lesson. Until we meet you next Thursday, stay safe, and I leave you في أمان الله. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.